I came upon a story of a white man that he took a DNA test and it revealed that he's 4% African, which is nothing really at all. But he wants to use this 4% African to finesse and take resources from black people. Now I want you to watch this short clip of this guy, and then we're really gonna get into what his claims are.
Well, here on this part
On
of the
this
street,
spot right here, on
yeah.
this, I'm a minority-owned business and I'm classified as black.
And then what happens when you step
I
on the
become
federal
I
property?
become a non-minority owned business and I'm Caucasian. I'm Caucasian, I'm black. I'm Caucasian, I'm black.
In the eyes of the law.
In the eyes of the law.
That's absurd, right? The idea of you
Then-
being
then-
black and then...
Well, then you're saying the law is absurd. I'm not absurd. The law is the law. We live by the rule of law. If you're saying that this situation is absurd, then that means the rule of law is absurd.
Ralph Taylor started his own insurance firm back in 1995. His focus is on risk management, advising companies on how to avoid legal liability. But for the last 2 years, he's been in a legal battle of his own, fighting to be recognised as a black man.
Why did you decide to take a DNA test?
I did it just for the understanding and for the knowledge to clarify what my oral history was. And it clarified what I had known through oral history about our lineage and our heritage. My father said we were a mix of many things, which we are.
So you took a DNA test, and what did the DNA test reveal to you?
Native American, black, and Caucasian.
Was it majority Caucasian, majority black, majority Native American?
Caucasian, majority Caucasian, then Native American, and then black. The black was 4%, around approximately 4% with a 3% variant.
3% margin of error?
Yeah, the Native American was 6 or 7%. I can't remember exactly without looking at it, but with a 3%, and then the rest was like 86% Caucasian. The rest of it was those two ethnicities, if you want to call them ethnicities.
Based on his DNA results, Ralph applied to the Washington State office that certifies minority-owned businesses. He sent in a photo and signed a sworn affidavit stating he was black. Getting certified can be a big deal. Out of around 600,000 small businesses across the state, fewer than 1,500 businesses have this certification. Washington State is trying to level the playing field. Right now, it has a budget of almost $3 billion to spend on business contracts. And white-owned businesses get more than 6 times as much money as black-owned businesses. So it set a target to award more contracts to women and people of colour.
It sounds like it's sort of a lucrative thing if you can be certified as a minority business.
Very lucrative.
How lucrative are we talking?
Billions upon billions upon billions of dollars.
Ralph applied to have his insurance company certified as minority-owned back in 2014. His application was approved by the state. But that same year, when he tried to get certified for a similar federal program, he was denied by the same office because they said he was not a minority.
The person who looked at it, who determined I was black at the state level, looked at it again and said I was Caucasian at the federal level. So to me, that shows there may be some issues of arbitrariness in that.
So are you trying to make money out of this, or are you trying to make a point?
It was never about the money.
So if it's not about the money, what point are you trying to make?
The point would be to show the country that there is no valid definition of race.
You spent hundreds of thousands of dollars all to prove a point that the system is unfair.
Wouldn't you?
I mean, I don't have hundreds of thousands
Well, yeah,
of dollars
but
to spend.
if you had but if you saw something that you thought was unfair, would you fight?
Ralph claims he hasn't benefited monetarily from the program. But Taryn Finley, who writes about the intersection of race and culture for HuffPost, is concerned about this new role DNA is playing, and the idea that genotype, what your genetics reveal, might start to carry the same weight as phenotype, or what you look like.
I have maybe about 10% European in me. I'm a black woman. My lived experience as a black woman cannot be passed. You know, that you're playing a game. It's in a very nefarious way of using your privilege, and I don't think that you're genuinely trying to expose a flaw in the system.
What do you mean by that?
The fact that you weaponize this 4% against those who could have been eligible for this and actually were marginalized, your intentions were not to show that the system was flawed. Of course the system is flawed. Like, we know that.
Now, you heard what he stated. You also saw that graph where they talk about how white businesses get all the funding and resources, but black businesses hardly get anything. It's not split 50-50 according to those numbers at all. White folks get 3/4 of the money. See, when you talk about black people in their businesses, the capital that we need to grow, that's why we don't grow, because white people get all the advantage. Still to this day, they get the advantage. Now, this is in Seattle, supposed to be the liberal place, right? Oh, we so inclusive. Oh, we your friend. We the Democrats, right? And look what's happening. White people are still practicing white supremacy. And we have to educate people like Candace Owens that don't understand what white supremacy is. White supremacy is not just the Ku Klux Klan or alt-right. That's white supremacy extremists. White supremacy is total control and domination by white folks in the 9 areas of activity, which was described by our brother Neely Fuller. And economics is one of them. They make sure to dominate and to control it and give their people an advantage. So you have this white man in liberal Seattle want to not only get white money, but he wants to get the money for people that don't look like him as well. Now, this is the dangerous thing that we're seeing today. Listen what they say about the article here. They said that he believes he should be legally black based on his sense of identity. And he also thinks that his Washington state business, Orion Insurance, should get all the benefits of being registered as a minority-owned entity. See, all this, I can identify whatever I want to identify with. You see where that's going? So you can identify as black, and you want to get the little money that's set aside for black folks, because black folks don't get any, if you look in the grand scheme of things, they really don't. So you want to take that too. I done a podcast a few weeks ago, and I can put the link down in the pinned comment, where it showed how white folks was finessing to saying there was Native American, Elizabeth Warren, for finessing and taking things from Native Americans, and also saying that they're black to get government contracts that were set aside for black people, Native Americans, etc. Every time you look it up, they're finessing to take money away from us. They're not satisfied that they get the majority of the share. They want our share too. That's what makes racism, white supremacy evil. That's what makes it the #1 problem for black America and the cause of the majority of our issues. And when you have people like Candace Owens don't know what the hell she's talking about, going to Capitol Hill with some talking points that are legitimate issues, but she has no history of anything, no history of this country, but yet she's allowed to go to Congress to run off at her mouth, being invited by the white supremacists on the right. That's why I said on Twitter, if you follow me on Twitter, and if you're not following me on Twitter, I don't know why you're not doing it. I said it's time for black Americans to call her out, because how dare she go to Capitol Hill trying to speak for black Americans. This is why we all need to start clamping down on this. I can identify with whatever I want to identify with, because when you start finessing and taking money from black businesses, other black people that's trying to get government contracts, that becomes a major problem. Now, he stated that affirmative action shouldn't be based on race, but socioeconomics, meaning that white men should be able to come in and benefit from affirmative action as well. Now, let's call it what it is. White women are the biggest benefactors of affirmative action. It's not black people. See, originally, the original affirmative action was supposed to be for black people only. Then Johnson came in and changed that. Look at the text of everything. All these other groups was added to affirmative action when affirmative action had nothing to do with these other groups. These other groups wasn't getting lynched. These other groups wasn't getting firebombed. These other groups wasn't suffering what we suffered in that time period. But yet they can come in, benefit off of affirmative action, including white women. White women get the benefit of white supremacy and the benefit of what we fought for. That's amazing. Now, white men just don't really benefit from affirmative action, but white women do. And this guy is basically trying to say is, well, white men need to benefit from affirmative action. So they want their white supremacy and the benefit of what we fought for as well. This is why I keep telling you guys, racism, white supremacy is the most evil entity in the world. Then he continues to state that not only that he wants to be recognized as black, just so he can finesse and take money from black people when it comes to business, but he had registered his business as a minority-owned business in Seattle. Just finesse and trying to take things. Then he was saying that he should be recognized as black because he's a member of the NAACP. The same NAACP that had Rachel Dolezal. The same one. Well, at least Rachel Dolezal was actually doing a few things in the community. I can't say that much. But this guy's not doing anything. He's just trying to finesse. And you wonder why younger black people don't fool with the NAACP? Because if you look at the beginnings of the NAACP, the original founders of it, you say, oh, you look at it today, right? I don't fool with no NAACP like that. I'm like, what is the NAACP doing? What are they doing? You don't see them on the front line of anything. Now, back in the day, they used to do some things. But today they just like a, I don't know, social club, I guess. The guy continues to say that he subscribes to Ebony Magazine. Ebony Magazine is owned by white people. It's not owned by black people, so you're subscribing actually to a white-owned publication. So he has a great interest in black social issues, so he should be identified as black. If that's all it takes to be black, well, shoot, I should be able to identify as whatever I want to identify with. So when that white police pull me over, I can just say I'm a white man. Because that's what I identify as. Yeah, right. And see how far that goes. That's why I'm not for all this. I can identify whatever I want to identify with. Man, we better, as a people, get a clamp down on that. Especially with us in our group as black Americans. You got to be black to say that you identify as black. Period. Because you're not going to come in here and benefit off of what we fought and died for and what we still dealing with today. You want to come in and take from us, but you don't want to deal with none of the pain that come along with being black. See, a lot of folks will do that. Try to come in and want to say, yeah, I like black culture and all. You like everything by black, but you don't want to deal with the pain of being black. You don't want to be associated when it's time to stand up and fight for black people. That's my biggest issue and problem with anybody coming in our culture, coming into a situation trying to identify. No, either you deal with the whole package of being black or stay yourself where you at. Same guy stated that he's also trying to expose the flaws in affirmative action. And he took his case all the way up to the Supreme Court about affirmative action, but they did not want to hear the case because in the Ninth Circuit, you know, he kept getting denied with his situation. At the end of the day for him, he just wanted to get access to black dollars, and he also wants white men to benefit from affirmative action. This guy stated that he's going to fight his case, even if it puts him homeless, living in his car. He's fighting basically for white men to have access to affirmative action programs. And yet black people don't even benefit off of affirmative action as much as white women do. That's why white women got all the jobs they have now is through affirmative action. This guy is, to me, is extremely sick. He's sick. He's very, very sick. And he pisses me off because he want to have this white privilege and then come in and take the little bit black people get, which is not much. He wants basically his group. You saw in that graph, black folks got 11 million and he wants all 11 million. He don't want black people to have a dime because he's trying to finesse and steal from us. And that's the faction that you see. That's why I will always talk about racism, white supremacy, and why that is the number one issue causing harm, that has caused destruction, that has constantly doing things to black America. Because if racism and white supremacy was to end, the solutions that we put in place to fix black America can stick, because you don't have white supremacy coming in and sabotaging the efforts of black people fixing the issues in the black community. Same thing with the reparations conversation. It's going to be more of that if reparations really get on the table and he's talking about paying out some money. Now, I know some people was talking about Dr. Sandy Darity's qualifications, saying that, you know, you should supposed to be identified as black at least 10 years. But my thing is, you know, this guy is changing his birth certificate. See, they'll do whatever qualification that you said that they should have been doing. They're going to try to finesse and fix it. Because the same thing with Native Americans, you know, they will say $5 Indian. It's because white people pay $5 to get their names on the rolls to say they're Native American so they can get that money. Elizabeth Warren skated her way into all kind of programs that was meant for Native Americans so she can get money. You understand? Rachel Dolezal saying that she black, skated her way in to get things that was meant for black people. That is stealing. But that shouldn't surprise me, and it shouldn't surprise you, because they stole everything they have, including black people. They stole it. They have not worked hard historically, not one day. And the more and more you see the ways they steal. Now, me and you couldn't get away with that. I couldn't put down that I'm white and then get the benefits of being white, because they will say that I'm defrauding the government. They'll say you defrauding a college and you should get some federal charges put on you. See, me and you get federal charges and state charges, and we will pull stunts like this. But when it comes to them, that's why I told you, racism, white supremacy is the best system for them, not us, for them, because they could steal, no charges, they can finesse, they can openly do things, be on a news program and say they doing it, and don't have to worry about no charges put on them. But let us do that sort of thing. And we on the news talking about, yeah, I registered my business as this. Then the next day, they'll have some charges put on you too. You getting arrested. That's what it just makes me sick, man. It makes me so sick that these people always talking about work hard, put yourself up by your bootstraps. You black people this, and like I say, y'all ain't working worth a crap. Because even when you have so-called businesses, you're trying to steal from black people. That's not pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. But leave me a comment, let me know what you think about this situation with this guy. But like I said, more and more is coming out. We live in the age of exposure. So all the tactics they have been doing for years to steal money, why that we can't get capital on a local level, state level, and maybe on a federal level, all of this is coming out. And make sure you listen to that podcast that I produced talking about them stealing contracts from black people on the federal level. It'll be in the pinned comment.